Hello everyone, welcome to it. This is a conversation with Brian. I tell you, last week was crazy. We only had, I was only alone. You were not here last week.
Yeah,
it was all
you
the
outnumbered.
legends. It was the legends around me.
Yeah, you outnumbered.
And one legend was this side, the other one was this side, and they were telling me exactly how social media doesn't know anything about the Soweto Derby. So here we are this week. Shane?
Hey, I love it. I love it. There was one thing, I'll never get substituted.
Yeah.
Never ever
Oh,
happened
really?
to me that.
It never happened.
Okay.
Okay, so
Even
he's,
though the
he's
social
sub
media
Jerry.
wanted me to be substituted, never happened.
Yeah.
Okay, that's up Jerry this week. We'll see next week. We'll work on it. We'll work on it. Good
We'll
to be
find
back
a
though.
way. Eh? We have to.
sure.
You have to find a way to get into
For
it.
sure.
Yeah, I mean, let's get into it. I mean,
Yeah.
the Soweto Derby. We were sitting here and talking about what a spectacle it will be and then how important the game is going to be. What's your take on what happened on Saturday?
Disappointed. Simple, over and done. That's my personal opinion, disappointed. You know, I said to you guys, the only thing I did get was winning by the odd goal. I said Pirates will win 3-2. I thought there'll be goals. What a disappointment, no goals. I mean, you've got to go to the 93rd minute to get a penalty. You know, very disappointing, very disappointing.
Were you disappointed with the quality of football overall, or the fact that there was just we're lacking goals?
The football wasn't too bad.
Yeah,
The
that's what I
football-
mean.
The
Yeah.
football
Some
wasn't
no
bad.
score lines.
Look, the football wasn't bad, but the attacking side of things
Yeah.
was non-existent. I mean, there was no penetration. There were no, and even with new players, etc., there was no penetration. Getting behind defences, everything is played in front of defences. That's easy. I mean, as a defender, that's all you want to do.
Before the game, Coach Nabi was saying that he's being part of the biggest derbies.
Yeah.
Talking about the one in Almerica against Al Hilal in Sudan. Also was part of the Simba. Simba
Yanga.
versus Yanga. He also spent some time in Morocco, so he understands Maghreb derbies also and everything else. And he didn't expect what he saw on a day in a game in Soweto when they played between Kaizer Chiefs and Orlando Pirates. Remember the first two matches of Jose Riveiro? He didn't know much about the derby.
Yeah.
He lost those two matches. Was in trouble.
Yeah.
Now, given the way Chiefs are playing at the moment, they've just lost the derby now. There've just been problems with them. They just lost the derby. How much pressure goes onto their own coach Nabi now?
Well, it's huge pressure, major pressure. I mean, if you look at the Derby game, it's his first Derby. You can say, okay, fine.
Yeah.
He wasn't expecting what he got. Look, the crowds. We all know about Derby games. We all know, especially in the new era where the guys sit together, the fans are together, they're friends. That makes such a big difference.
Yeah.
It's unheard of in world football, if you think about it.
Yes.
It doesn't happen in world football. So it is a special derby. It is very special, especially when it's full like that. I love that. I love the atmosphere. I love everything around it. Except for me, again, going back to that, he's been put himself under big pressure. They're not getting goals. They haven't scored. They played a game midweek. They got a point, but they didn't score a goal.
Let's just talk about the game midweek, and in fact, let's talk Chiefs. What you're saying on the whole. I mean, he spoke about the need for new signings.
Yeah.
The new signings are beginning to feature now.
Yeah.
The game where they didn't score, funny enough, in both the goal actions where Amazulu scored on goals, each of the new guys
were
was involved and influential in that goal being scored or conceded by Amazulu, let's put it that way. I look at Chiefs, even in the derby, and I said, look, from the Chiefs that ended last season to the Chiefs we're seeing now, are there improvements? Is there a bit more depth? Yes, it's not at the level of Sundowns and Pirates just yet, but it's what we're expecting this season, just growth. Nothing more.
Yeah.
And I think Nabi's tried, he's been at pains throughout the season to say this, look, we're just growing and nothing more. So if you've been listening to Nabi and you're a football person, and I know you are, it's going according to plan maybe, and maybe slight improvements in body language, in just the way they carry themselves out. And yes, not necessarily getting it right, but just trying to improve. Slightly, I think they're on the right path.
Look, there has been a big improvement.
Yeah.
You got to give it to them. There has been a major improvement. There has been a big improvement compared to last season. They're a little bit more solid. They're looking a lot better.
Some players we thought were done and dusted are back again and competing.
Your one worry there is once again goal scoring. They've got to find their player. I don't think they've quite found him yet. I don't think the players they brought in are going to be the answer for them to score a lot of goals. I really don't think that. So that's a project that they've got to look at, and they've got to do it now and identify it for next season. That's why, if you remember what I said, remember what I said last season. They should have brought Nabi in early on. and given him 6 months
Yes.
just to do whatever, he would have been
Yes.
settled, because now you've lost another
Let me ask you a
season.
question. Let me ask you a question around this here. When you look at the starting 11 for Kaizer Chiefs, for example, you have Ditokwe playing left back. You have
At times,
playing right back. You know, for the derby in particular, you actually have them lining up that way. Then you have Miguel in the center.
Was that not a surprise for you?
For me, it was a huge surprise.
Huge surprise,
But,
okay.
but what I found very interesting is how Ditokwe handled Nkota. Hence, eventually was substituted and brought in Dlamini in the second half. Pulo Modi, I think he had one of the best matches he's had in the longest of time.
He's had a good run of late.
He's been
He's had a
really,
good
you
run
can
of late.
see the Modi they signed from Golden Arrows
Yeah.
coming into the team. Now, when you switch things around, go the other side, look at the Orlando Pirates, Makhetheni Makau has become something that's in the middle of the park. The way he just nullifies and cancel out things over and over and again. Now, you go back to the benches and see the changes made by the teams. Lilepo comes in late in the game, shows a bit of some movement. You can see there's something that's coming out of him. Dustin Sereno was initially not even on the bench. He was brought in late as he came in as a replacement for Mashiane on the list, you know, for Chiefs. He comes in carrying still just coming out of injury. When he came in and took Pulo Modi out, you realize then Chiefs lost something.
Yeah.
They lost something, you know. Was it more of a situation of one bench getting things right? Because when Pirates made the changes, they looked to be a better team as they went, because Mofokeng was therefore allowed slightly free roll with even Makgopa bringing people in and supplying those balls towards Mofokeng and making those great runs into the penalty area. What should the Chiefs done differently if they want to nullify that Mofokeng aspect?
The problem with Chiefs is, what can you do differently? You don't have the players that Pirates have to bring on and to make an impact. You don't have that as such. So yeah, Serena came back from injury. You could see he was very rusty. You could see that. I wouldn't have brought him in, I'll be very honest with you. Wouldn't have been my first choice, especially in a derby game like that, a high-intensity game. But end of the day, the coach made a decision. The difference between those teams, you look at Pirates and Sundowns, is they got the players to come off the bench and change a game. Chiefs don't really have that. Yeah, it looked a little bit better with players, but they're a long way from that.
You see, Brian, what you're saying is, what could Chiefs have done to stem the Pirates forward thrust? But you're not asking what could Chiefs have done to go forward and affect
They don't
things.
have, they don't really have that.
This is evident when you look at them against Amazulu. End of the first half, I think Chiefs got 10 chances at goal. Amazulu's got 1. Even. End of the game, Chiefs got 16. Amazulu maybe got 2 or 3 chances at goal. It's even. That's a big problem. They just don't have the players to score goals. They need the goal scorers.
You know, I said this to you last week, I think. How often have we heard, especially from Chiefs coaches, we can't score goals, we can't score goals, we can't score goals. How often have we heard
They
it?
completely outplayed Amazulu.
Not for the last season, for the last 4 or 5 seasons. But what have they done about it?
Let's look at the positive now. Tashik Morris, as you mentioned, came in because he was suspended for the derby. Couldn't play because he carried a suspension from SuperSport.
Huge positives.
Couldn't play there. He comes in the game against Amazulu. Lilepo is there also. Both players are creators of the goals for Kaizer Chiefs. Maybe somebody will say, hey, maybe Ranga might have somebody who's going to compete for the position with him, you know, going forward. This is how you need to do. I mean, Chiefs are playing against Stellies today. They're playing Stellies later on today. You know, how do they therefore come up in a game of the magnitude, given what Stellies can do on a day? Stellies on a day can hammer anybody.
The 2 new players against Amazulu, Lilepo and Morris, for me, looked to get involved, take responsibility, and they didn't shy away from the action. They were positives. Lilepo for me was a huge positive. Left or right, it was a problem for Amazulu. Where they can do that against everybody and be a problem like that consistently against everybody is something to see. Also, you want to see how he then fits into the team when Sereno is playing maybe in a more creative role and supplying them. But they look like positives against Amazulu, but still they didn't get the goals. They looked like positives, but still.
How bad is it that they're conceding most every time they're conceding? How bad is it for Chiefs?
It's very bad. I mean, and I think that's why you look at the starting lineup. He tried to nullify that. He tried to set up solid so that we're not conceding and play from there and try and get them on the break. And that's what he did. And he succeeded, basically succeeded. You know, if you look at it, they did well for 93 minutes. But then, unfortunately...
What do you guys think of the penalty?
Let's go.
We have to talk about the penalty.
I want to talk about the 2 incidents. There's one in the second minute where Pulo Modi, when the game just kicked off, broke and then was pulled by Sbisi. Lost his footing but continued to run, and eventually the goalkeeper saved that chance. All right? That's one.
Yeah.
Let's leave that there. You have a similar situation. Mufokeng, late in the match, makes a run, he's pulled back, stays on his feet, eventually shot, and he blocked and goes out, and then eventually a penalty is awarded. Now, when you look at the first one, it was a minute and a bit in the first half. All right? The pulling started outside the penalty area. Eventually, he got into the penalty area where he lost his footing gingerly and got in there. What do you make of the two decisions? Let's talk about the first, because Chiefs one is one in the first 2 minutes. Pirates one is in the last minute.
Firstly, for me, people will say, because it's a derby, consider the time and consider the game. No.
You don't do that.
Yeah.
You don't
It's
do
a
that.
game's a game.
The game's a game. The time of the game is the time of the game. It doesn't really matter. So let's just cancel those out. Who's playing doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Look at the actions, and the time of the game doesn't also matter.
Yeah.
Look at the actions and judge them fairly.
Yeah.
And Shane's got the best, I think, outlook of anyone I've heard break this down.
Well, the second one, I had a particular look at the second one. You know, he goes in, yes, it is a penalty, no doubt.
Yeah.
But the ref should get him straight away. Not allow him to play on, carry on, get a shot in on target, because he wasn't stumbling, he got back, he got his balance back, and he got a shot in. Now, as advantage
one
over,
action.
as advantage
Should be
over,
over.
it should
Yes.
be over, because he's got his foot in, he's got the shot in. So, to me, wrong in giving a penalty. But having said that, if you look at the first incident where he gets pulled down, if he had gone down, it's a penalty, no matter what. So you look at it, did the ref err? I'm not too sure. The first one, the very first minute and a half, exactly the same thing happened, and he allowed it to go, and he didn't come back and say, hang on a minute, there's a free kick. So you can't go with one or the other. So I think it's a referee error, to be very honest. Pirates were lucky to get the penalty. And I'm not talking from a Chiefs perspective. I'm talking from an overall, just looking at the game. They were lucky to get the penalty. Only because he went on and had the shot. He recovered, got his feet in, went on, the keeper made a save, boom.
Let's look now, let's move away from the derby. Let's now move into another big game this
Yeah.
weekend. It is North versus South. Number 1 versus number 2. 6 points in between. Pirates got a game in hand. They win this game. They're 3 points behind with a game in hand. Two teams that are playing in the CAF Champions League quarterfinals, both teams. Sundowns unbeaten last 6 matches, Pirates unbeaten last 5 matches.
You've got to look at, for me, when I'm looking at games and I'm looking forward and I'm looking to see where things are happening, you've got to look at momentum.
Yeah.
Which team has got the more momentum?
Yeah.
And I think you know where I'm leading you. And it's definitely not the black and white.
Yeah.
Sundowns have looked different class. They're not conceding goals. They look in the old Sundowns. And when I say that, I'm saying it with respect. They do look like the old Sundowns. Shaleli's come back in, got in goals. Ribeiro.
That's a big difference.
Not a big
But when
different
you add
class.
Shaleli to that mix,
Yeah,
it's
different
scary
class.
now. I
They've
mean,
got so many players that can come in and make a difference in your team.
Yes.
For me,
Yes.
I'll be scared to be playing Sundowns at this stage.
I'm excited. For me, this is the biggest game of the season so far. I'll tell you why. The way the season ended last season, with the Nedbank Cup and Pirates getting one over Sundowns, and the way they did as well. When Sundowns had won the league, so in such a convincing manner, Pirates were saying, "Look, we're going to come back and we're going to compete," and that's how they ended the season. That was the message. Then the Champions League gets underway, and they both do what they've done in the Champions League, and Pirates go and win in Al-Ahly in Cairo. That's a message.
a big result,
Yeah, it's a message as well. It's a message of intent to me. And all the fans sit back and football people say, "Hey, that's you don't just do that."
My problem with that is, are the Pirates players, I'm not talking about the whole squad, but are they concentrating more on Champions League, or are they putting all their concentration into league games? That's my big worry.
I'd like to think at this point, the Sundowns game is as good as the Champions League game.
It is indeed. I mean, they might find themselves
It's as good as
playing
the
one another
Champions-
in the
yeah, yeah.
quarterfinals.
Yes.
Exactly.
One is seeded, the other one is not seeded. You
Yeah,
might just find
so-
themselves in there. Who wins it?
This one.
It's a big 6-pointer for me.
Ooh-wee.
Who wins it?
If you look at it, it's a major 6-pointer. Because Sundowns won.
I know the shame, but who wins it?
Sundowns.
Who wins it?
Hey, Sundowns are looking. They're not conceding the scoring, but
Yeah.
Sundowns.
So Sundowns.
Sundowns.
You agree? Okay, they say Sundowns, both of them. Bagania.
Quick one,
We'll
quick
find
one.
out exactly what's going to happen.
I have to ask you guys your thoughts quickly.
Okay.
Maswanganyi's penalty.
Panenka.
The stage.
For me,
I have to ask,
There
come
are two
on,
ways
yo.
I'm going to look at it, Shane. I mean, it's a good one you're asking that, because when I was doing commentary in the game on Saturday, when he stood up and I said, this guy just missed the penalty now
Exactly.
Yeah.
against Cape Town City.
Yes.
Mahop wanted to take it. He took the ball from him.
And took
And
it.
the coach came back and said, I knew I was going to do it. But I'm telling you, when he missed the one against City, the coach was not happy.
Yeah.
So I was saying, this is one of those things that happens in football.
I wouldn't have been happy. I must be very honest. As a coach,
That's how he took it.
yeah. As a coach, you would
What
have
if I
heard
say
me.
to you, Zidane's done it in the World Cup?
Yeah, but I'm saying, as a coach, I would have been having lots
Shane
of bad
is different.
But just
We-
hold on.
we
Once
love the
again,
fun part
once
of it.
again, let's not sit on the fence. Who is going to win on Sunday, on the weekend?
Who?
Pirates Sundowns.
I believe it's going to be a good game. That's all we have for you
Really?
today. We'll chat
Really?
again next time.
it's great.
Commissioner Brian, thanks
Social
for-
media.
Thanks for
Social
social
media,
media.
yeah.
Partner of mine. Sizwe and Shane, thank you to have you back. Until we meet again next time.
I saw a cherry and it was red.